All right, mic is working. Mic test. Hey, look at that. Sound is on. 7:30. All right. Cool wipe. And now, let's move my keyboard because I didn't move it. I'm very unprepared. And I had 40 minutes to get everything set up. And I spent it tracking 2D points. Nah, I spent 5 minutes tracking these. Okay, is this loud enough? Testing. Audios. Hey, that looks good. Cool. I have my AC running. So I got a denoiser going. And yeah. So before I get started, Brian, are you here watching? Brian is the one who has submitted this shot. And it is going to be a very basic camera. He has provided measurements and camera data. And what we are going to be doing is tracking, or I've already tracked, we're going to solve the camera, and we're going to track and solve his back. And his back looks like I'm going to be doing it as deforming geo. I actually don't know if he wants a rigid object or if he wants to know how to deform this. Joe, yep. Hold on, I gotta move my... Can I rearrange my OBS so I can put my chat on the other side so I can see it? Tomorrow, Brian, good, yeah. Oh, nice. Tomorrow, Brian, good to see you. And Joe, good to see you, Joe. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and get started here. Get things going. All right, so I just tracked points. I didn't do anything special. I opened SYNTHEYES, I loaded in the plate, didn't do anything beyond that. So there is a couple points I am going to track because, like I said, Brian has provided, ooh, I've hidden everything. Oops. That feature where you shake the window and everything just goes. All right. Sorry, I had to find everything again. All right. So Brian has provided this. He's given me some a couple measurements. We're going to be using the one that spans the street. And because I have those 2 points, what I want is I want to have 2 points tracked exactly on the positions where he has provided the measurement. So I'm going to go ahead and put a point down here. Whoop. And glad I tracked the whole shot beforehand because that was slow. Not the best point. Didn't really spend time to see if that was sliding or not, but again, I'm not going to go for 100% perfect on the shot. Just going to try and get it as quick as possible. And here is the other point. Good. So now gonna do a tomorrow Brian equals the guy that sent you yeah. All right. Now, I'm going to solve this shot quickly just to see what we're dealing with, and I'm going to probably solve it with distortion. I don't know what this drone has. I had a Mavic Pro before and it didn't have any distortion, and my Phantom 4 didn't seem to have any distortion. So we'll see what we're gonna deal with here. I'm gonna hit go. Come on. And it looks like we have some stretching going on over here. All the points are kind of offset, meaning either we have a zoom going on, which I kind of doubt it, or we have some mad distortion going on in the background. So I'm going to go ahead and turn on Calculate Distortion and Shift-G to solve. And hey, that already improved our points. Also, something I should say right away is I'm going to undo that solve real quick. Oh, got a message. A bit of distortion and rolling shutter. Ooh. Yeah, the rolling shutter we're going to ignore. Rolling shutter is not something we commonly... Well, we deal with it and account for it, but we don't really deliver with anything compensating for rolling shutter. It's just not really asked for. Also, this shot is not really moving fast at all, so the rolling shutter isn't going to affect us all that much. Okay, so something I wanted to say real quick. If I solve this, it is not immediately apparent of the error that is going on unless you know where to look. I just kind of knew to jump to the corners immediately and saw this. But you should have radars on. So if you right click, go view, turn on tracker radar. Now all your points have these red little circles on them. And what these are good for is the bigger the circle, the more error there is on your trackers. So where there is the least distortion in the center of the shot, you know, the errors are pretty low, but on the edges, these are looking pretty crazy. So now with these radars on, let's turn on Calculate Distortion, Shift G, go, and you can see that our error has balanced itself out a bit. It's kind of weird that this point up here got so much error. I'm actually kind of curious if DJI drones, I know they don't, apparently they don't shoot with their full sensor even at the full resolution. They shoot, I guess, like 5K and then it crops down to 4K. So I'm curious if these drones, on top of having the gimbal stabilization, if they also use a bit of digital with that added resolution. Because I've had funny things with drones like this, where no matter how hard I try, there's something wrong with it. And this is a very unusual looking error to be happening like this. I'm going to tack down just a quick point up here just to see what it does. If it doesn't go perfectly, I'm just going to skip past this, because again, the focus of this is the object itself and not the camera. So I'll finish this up as fast as I can, just a couple points. And let's get one on the light here. All right, let's just see what this does to this now. Solve. Okay, so I solved it. It's kind of distributed the error evenly amongst these 2 points, which is better than nothing. But I am in an older version of SYNTHEYES, so I don't have any fancy distortion right now. I have quadratic distortion. This distortion here, if I go into F3, L lock to camera, this is quadratic distortion. This is like the most basic form of distortion you could possibly get. There is like quadratic, quartic, cubic, and other stuff. Newer versions of SYNTHEYES, which I'm not using because I don't like them, but newer versions of SYNTHEYES have a more button where you have access to quartic, quadratic, cubic, and whatever. And what that means is you get this distortion, but on top of that, you can get a separate distortion for the edges. So you kind of get that mustache distortion that people talk about. It could be that. Because drones have tiny lenses, there's more room for lens imperfections. Even if you have the same lens from the same manufacturer, like exact same model, you still need to shoot separate lens grids for each because their distortion will be slightly different. Okay, so what was I doing? Oh yeah, let's calculate distortion, Shift G, solve the shot. Okay, here we are. I'm going to leave the error at this. The error is 0.4. That's amazing. A lot of people would look at this error and think, hey, that's great. And I would actually do that more often than not. But this error is more of a guide. That's the average error of all your points. So you look down here, of course, these points are solving amazing. And it has an error of an error of 0.2. While point over here, error of 0.6. What? What's this one do? Error of 1. Okay, that one's expected. That one's expectedly higher. And now, so yeah, we're going to leave it here. The error is pretty good overall. There's a little bit of error on these points, but that's fine. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to apply the measurement to this scene. And to do that, I'm going to quickly look at the information that has been provided. So 21.6 feet. SYNTHEYES' units is in centimeters. So I'm just going to quickly ask Siri. What's 21.6 feet in centimeters?
It's 658.37 centimeters.
Cool. Now don't go to sleep, please, because I'm going to have to ask you again. I asked that too quickly. Now I think my phone's going to go pass out. All right, so I'm going to pick those 2 points from where he got the measurement from. So I'm going to select the first one right here. And then I'm going to alt-click the other tracker over here, and that's going to link these 2 trackers. And now if I go, make sure I'm under my tracker, in my tracker room, down at the left side, you can see we have distance. So I'm going to, of course, my phone went to sleep. Hold on. What's 21.6 feet in centimeters?
It's 658.37 centimeters.
Okay, cool. Oh, I forgot the 7. All right. Now we have our distance entered in, our measurement for these 2 points. So if we look in our quad view with F4, I'm going to hit Shift-G, solve the shot, and our solve has grown up. And that's because of this line. The scene, knew what to do. Now we have a good scale. Okay, so now that we have that, let me just take a quick peek in here, see what we have. I'm going to scale things up a little bit. If you don't see anything in here, take a look at your world size, and you might have to drag this number up. I held Shift so that I could drag this world size up faster. So if we look at this, there's no orientation. It looks like caca. So let's uncaca it. I'm going to quickly, I could do this manually, but I like using lines. But lines has a habit of changing my focal length, and even though I've read the documentation on it, for some reason I can't get it to work consistently and not alter my focal length. I'm just going to give it a quick try for laughs. It's probably going to fail me, and I'm going to do this by hand quickly. So I'm going to go add line, and back into my camera view. A lot of the lines in this are very, very crooked. So I'm not going to rely 100% on all of them. So I got our Z-axis pointing towards the camera, Y-axis, of course, going upwards. That may vary depending on the software you're using. I want to believe that this garage is at least a little bit straight. This stuff here looks kind of newer. I think this looks newer. I don't know. This looks a little bit more straight. So I'm going to go parallel. Let's get a parallel over here as well. And now that we have these two, so now that we have those lines, we have our 2 main axes lines and a couple, oh, I didn't put any parallel lines for the Z. One sec. Parallel Z. LOL, I live in a crooked neighborhood. Is this you, Brian? Man, I could just walk up and steal your keys. Hope you have a nice vehicle. All right, so let's see. I'm going to put a Z line on this funny uneven terrain over here, parallel to Z. And if you have good X lines, you could put down some parallel X lines, but you can't put down a third on axis. Like these are on axis lines, your main lines. You can't put another like main line for X. You can only do parallel X lines. That's you? Brian, I'm going to make you feel real inferior in a moment here. Okay, so now let's what was I doing? I did the lines. Okay, yeah, I got the lines. Cool. Let's take a quick, let's drop into our perspective view again, and I'm gonna hit align. Okay, did that change my focal? Whoa, it didn't. Yes. Okay, so the documentation tells me that if you have a solve and you have your focal length, lines will apparently not change your focal. I have found that to be a lie many, many, many times. Lovely. All right, prepare for inferiority now. I'm going to go and center this scene, bring it over here. Just kind of bring everything up to the ground. Look at how slanted your road is. It could just be the crooked buildings that I put lines on. All right. So I'm going to bring in a guy here. So assuming your measurement is correct, Ryan, this is how tall I would be standing next to you. Isn't that great trivia? I tower you. I am a tall boy. I need water. 1 second. I'm sorry you had to hear it like this. Somebody had to tell you, and it wasn't going to be anybody else. All right. Haha. All right. So, now I think we're good on the camera for the most part. I'm just gonna take a quick peek and I'm gonna drop just a couple bits of geo around just to check some lines, see what things are doing. So I dragged in a long box and I'm going to invert the normals and grab the subdivisions, extend them a little bit. So I'm just gonna move this around and just look at the Z lines. Z lines look pretty awesome. Y lines, again, the walls are kind of crooked, so well, honestly, everything here looks crooked. And what does the horizon look like? Going down the alley, everything looks pretty decent here. If I hit F3, I can see the actual blue horizon line cutting across, and it looks like it's sitting at the correct position. I'm gonna turn whole off so I can select the geo. Oops, delete it. I don't need it anymore. All right. So now we have the camera solve. I'm just gonna quickly refine, smooth it, and call it done. So smoothing this camera, I'm going to look at it over here. I don't have to look at it like I am now. I like to see what the smooth does to my path. So here we can see it is pretty smooth, and I expect this to be smooth. There is a lot of depth in these points. This has immense foreground, midground, and background. So there's not a lot of room for the camera here to be jittery or anything crazy. So in the case like this, I'm going to smooth it, but I'm not going to smooth it much at all. I'm going to go to filter and control. I'm going to keep the smooth to 1, I think. And I think the frequency, I'm going to, turn up a bit to like 10, so that it doesn't smooth out to a long curve, but it takes the small frequency noise and smooths it out. So I just hit it with a smooth, and that should have done what I said it should have done. I'm going to zoom in and undo redo. Yeah, this is so smooth and the path is so long, my smooth basically didn't do anything. So that's fine. Not going to smooth this then. All right, so the camera, I'm going to disable it. And we're going to make a new object and start on the shirt. Okay, so shot, add moving object. And now, so we're going to go ahead and just quickly jump straight into tracking. I want to try and get this done as quick as possible because who wants to sit and watch tracking? If anybody has any questions, now's the time so that I don't have to talk about random BS trying to fill gaps of white noise. I will try my best to think of a story if I have one, but I will probably struggle to. Somebody's got to help me out. Oh, come on. Track other direction. I love the idea of you just walking around with tape on your back like this. It's always funny seeing like uh indie film crews running around with like makeup on and stuff because either they've applied it or don't want to apply it on set. Eric, hey, how's it going? We're doing a viewer submitted shot here. I'm having a lot of fun. This is actually really fun doing somebody else's shot. I would like to do more of this actually. The idea being attaching a rigid object to my back, yet the cloth is distorting since it's cloth. I'm intrigued to see how to do it. So you're going to put a rigid object on your back. First think I'm nuts for sure. That boy walks around with his keys outside his pockets. So the so this rigid object, do you think I can get a kind of description of what it is? Usually you focus an object when you're doing work on an object track. You kind of like to focus your work on, depending on what kind of object it is, anchored to the top two X's. Oh, okay. Oh, that's way easier. Okay. So it's basically going to be an easy rigid object, and then we're going to clean up the depth, make sure that the object is on top of the right parts of the road, scaled correctly, and just for laughs, at the end of it, I could show how to get a couple separate objects for these points moving under this object. So you could attach deforming mesh. If anyone's interested, I could do that at the end. I don't know. We'll see what kind of time we're dealing with. Anyway, I don't have to do much tracking on this then. That's awesome. And good, things are going. Ooh, this point's kind of sliding around, but I'm actually okay with that because this is a deforming shirt. There's no extra points for getting amazing trackers on a deforming object if you're going to be solving a rigid object out of it. I'm interested in that, yeah, if you're up for it. Yeah, I could be up for it. We'll see what kind of time we're at the end of this. Whoa, I disabled it. Man, I miss my drone. Drones. I wasn't the most responsible with them. I've crashed both of them multiple times. It's not what I sold the first one. It was in great condition considering I've landed it in like 4 trees. Was able to sell it and then get the Mavic. Man, I miss drones. Drones are so much fun. Just the regulations over here are just so... I don't want to go through the effort. Isn't the new drone, though, it's small enough that you can legally fly it in areas like this, right? I think. I don't remember. My friend told me over the past weekend. A week and a half ago. I should have remembered this. Points are going good. Something that bums me out about drones is that it seems that I don't know if they're like doing some kind of post-processing, but it seems like they sharpened the footage because everything here has this fringe. This fringe you don't typically get unless it's by like a digital sharpen. So if it's like, if you're here with your footage and you take a sharpen node, this sharpen increases the contrast in that dirty where you get this fringe and it just looks terrible. Yeah, it's kind of weird. It's kind of weird that it looks like the drone does that. All my drones did this, and it makes the footage just not look right, in my opinion, when it bleeds into when you try to mix it in with other shots from other cameras. I just got my battery pack so I can be up there for 2 hours with 4 batteries. Nice. I'm close to Santa Monica Aerospace though, so you have to avoid that. Oh, that's that is something. And we are good. I think we're good on points, really. At least on these markers. It's nice to have more points. If you're dealing with a deforming object, like, yeah, your solve is not going to be perfect, but the more points that you add, the more that your overall object is going to stabilize itself out, and it's also, well, yeah, it's just going to average itself out and stabilize. There are settings to take down the sharpness. I would look at those. Yeah, if you can, like, you should turn off all the post-processing that the drone does. Okay, so what I'm thinking now is that I want some points to act as my depth. So I'm going to try to track something up on his collar here. This point might take me a couple minutes to track. It's not as straightforward as the markers, and I'm trying to make sure this doesn't slip too much. Whoa. You'll have a tough time solving an object if you have points here that are only on a flat surface, because then SYNTHEYES doesn't quite know what to do with it exactly. So you want to make sure that you can find as much depth as you can pull out of it. Ah, I should have tracked these points beforehand too. I don't know. I'm having fun tracking. So I should have put a couple markers up on my shoulders to make this easier. Yeah, probably. Most shots that I have to do where there's stuff like this, I don't even get markers like this. Like, it's just like, I've had times where it's just shirt and no markers or anything. And you have to like do weird guesswork and hand animation on the trackers, and yeah, I've had a lot worse. The track, also your markers could have been like little tiny dots, because the trackers, of course, it's handy, but if you can track without them, you know, don't put trackers. It's just extra work for you painting them out. Whoa, your head's retracting into your shirt. It's like a turtle. Oh, this is rough. This is where it's nice in 3D equalizer, because then I can pull the target box off to the side and not get that occluding background. Oh, this is going pretty good. Mark control lessons learned. Yeah, they are insanely huge. Yeah, these are massive tracking markers. Okay, so let me try to get 1 point on this side, and we'll see what a solve does. There's a good chance we might toss a couple points on his shoulders, but we'll see what a solve does without those shoulder points. Oh, that's rough. Oh no, this is the work I was not wanting to do. Oh my god. I'm going to expand this tracker up a little bit and hope that this curvature of the collar helps me not do so much hand animation to the point. Okay, so it's kind of dirty, but it's helping me. My tracker isn't popping around as much. This one's, it's going at a decent pace now. This isn't too bad. The points, when I get to the points on his shoulders, I don't think I'm going to track the shoulders. I'm going to use a couple offset points, which will be fast. Don't be afraid to use the ears or head area. Marty, wait, I don't see a Marty in the chat. I don't see a Marty in the chat. Oh, I'm not on the multi-stream chat. Oh no, I think I've been missing some messages. I'm under multi-stream. I think chat's coming through now, but I think I've been missing some people's messages. I just saw Marty's message because it appeared on my Streamlabs window, previewing what's on the stream. Marty, could you try? I am now under multi-stream, but I don't think it refreshed. Do you think you can try message one more time if you had anything? That concerns me. So tracking might hurt the salt. Except my head retracts like a turtle at certain points, so tracking might hurt. Yes. Yeah, if you tracked your head, it would more hurt your solve. Your head is tilting forward a bit. You're slightly doing a head bob. You may not see it, but it's most likely there. It actually will help stabilize your object. It'll probably help more than it will hurt, but it depends on what you're going for. And it also means that you will have to focus the pivot of your refinement on the back so that you don't refine from the head or somewhere random in the volume of your body. And that probably won't make sense at this moment. Oh man, I'm bummed out that I'm missing some messages now. Marty, are you guys on Discord? I'm on Discord. But the chat that I'm looking at is coming from Twitch, and it should be coming from YouTube as well. Oh no, have I been missing chat on YouTube? Hold on, I gotta check my stream real quick. I might have been missing stuff. Ah, YouTube giving me the not a robot thing. Oh no, Luca, I'm missing chat. Wow, okay, that's annoying. Oh no. Okay, one sec, hold on. I gotta go, I'm just gotta tweak my settings or something. Can I refresh? Oh, that is such a bummer. I don't know what to do. That should have just worked by default. I'm trying out a new stream setup. I got Streamlabs Prime or whatever, so I can easily multi-stream just without having to use Restream. I shouldn't have done that. Now I'm missing stuff. Okay. Marty, what is your... Oh, I can't chat and multi-stream. Okay, my Twitch. You can type in... So here's my Twitch. You can type in twitch.tv/Calvin Kingdon. And chat should work fine in here. Oh, I'm hearing my voice. Oh, that was rough. I didn't want to hear that. Oh man, that pains me. Okay, so I'm gonna see if I can bring myself to pop-out chats so I can... Okay, sorry, one second. I'll get back to tracking in a moment. Oh, can you not pop out chat Twitch? What about YouTube? Oh, sorry, Marty. I can post the. I didn't realize. Sorry, I can post the Twitch link in YouTube. Okay, well the. Okay, so I guess I'll have to fix this for another stream, but if anybody wants to chat, they're gonna have to jump over to Twitch because for some reason YouTube is not showing up in my multi-stream chat. Oh, technical difficulties. Be back in a moment. I'm very bad with technology. I'm sorry. Okay. Okay, so I don't know, I kind of hope things are gonna somewhat work. Oh yes, YouTube gives me a pop-out chat. Okay, so I should be able to see YouTube chat now easily. And then Twitch chat. Okay, I can see Twitch and YouTube chat. If anybody on YouTube can send me a message and somebody on Twitch send me a message, that would be awesome. Because I just want to see that both update. All right, so I'm just gonna track for a moment while I can. Dario, testing. Thank you, Dario. Tungdang? I hope I pronounced that correctly. Hello. Lurking in the shadows. I probably pronounced your name so terribly. I'm sorry. And Twitch. Joe, Calvin, thank you for sharing your knowledge. It's always great. Nice. Twitch is working as well. And Kai testing. Awesome. Is everything appearing on the stream too? It looks like some of the messages appearing. I don't know if it's all the messages appearing on the, because I also have the stream messages appearing on the stream itself, but I don't know if it's showing YouTube and all that stuff. I should have checked that. Just have to make sure all this works next time. Nice. Tongue is correct. Or tongue. I think I said it tongue the first time. Oh man. I want to abandon this point so badly. This point's just hanging it up. I just have to get past this white bar. Yes. All right. Oh, it's smooth sailing. Okay, I'm done. Cool. So we got a couple points up there, and it looks like they are going to give us a pretty decent amount of parallax. So here's what we're going to do now. I'm going to. So our actual object is back here. This is the actual object for our track, but our object is just a null. This is basically a group or a locator in Maya. This is nothing because there's no object under it. If I solve this, this object will animate, but we have no geo under it. So what I'm going to do is just for a back, I'm going to just use the earthling here. So I went into quad view and let's see, no chat. Cool. I gotta check chat now frequently. A little worried I'm gonna miss more. So it looks like you are standing. Here's 3 points right here, and it looks like these points. I'm gonna drag some feet, and you can see I can drop it to where you are actually standing. Now I'm going to go scale. If you don't want to cycle through translate, rotate, and scale, just hit W-E-R on your keyboard, like Maya and Houdini. So I'm going to go scale, bring this up so that the shoulders reach. And now rotate them around. And the back of this earthling is very not like, it's very, the back of this, like this is a very, the earthling has, to me, weird proportions for like everybody I've ever tried to line it up to. I hate sculpting this. So I'm going to bring it forward a little bit. Looks like you're leaning forward. I'm just going to cheat it here. And now, I don't care about the head or anything crazy. So I'm going to scale this in a very sloppy fashion. Get it around here. Now I'm going to hit F3, go to orbit, Control F to lock to my object. Oh, I got to hit orbit. There we go. I'm going to come over and open up Smudge Relax. And Smudge Relax, if you don't know what it is, it's sculpting. So I'm going to click Smudge Mesh. And now when you scroll wheel, you have this brush. Marty Step. Good old 185 centimeter is 6 foot. 165 centimeters, sorry. Yeah, actually, at the start of the stream, Marty, we got some actual measurement. This shot was submitted by Brian. So the shot is scaled accurately. And yeah, the 6 foot, it's kind of funny. Do I still have my guy up here? Look at this dude over here. This guy's 200 centimeters. This is me. This is my height compared to Brian. I could be his dad. Like height has much to do with it, but anyway, that's my dumb joke. Okay, I'm gonna go back over here. So I'm gonna sculpt his back, arch his back out a little bit. Ooh. So when I dragged it out, you could see what the geometry did. That's because the brush is projecting from the camera. It's not passing through the mesh. So I'm gonna go brush surface, change it to through. So now your brush is going through the mesh. Just gonna round out the surface here a bit. And I'm gonna hit L, lock to camera. Oh boy, where was I? I should have kept track of what frame I roughly lined that up on. Looks like right here. Tomorrow, Brian. Hi. Son, where have you been? So we're gonna bring this out. I'm not gonna care about the arm. I don't need to care about the rest of your torso either. This torso is not going to line up. It's also going to tilt forward and back from these points. So this isn't really going to be the best. This is just a rough mesh for me to project points onto. I could have made a plane and shaped it. I could have taken this camera into Maya and sculpted you out a little bit better. But I didn't really want to do it. So I'm going to take all these points. You need a minimum 4 points to 165 centimeters, sorry. That's right, Marty. You apologize. Don't bring that 185 centimeter crap into this chat. So these points, I'm going to just drop them in the mesh. Going to come up to track, drop on the mesh. You need a minimum 4 to actually use constrain. The more that you put, they tend to fight each other, except in this case, I'm just going to let them fight each other evenly. This is kind of like having a solid even weighting on all of them. If I constrained like 4 points like this, it would fight amongst these points, and then all these middle points would kind of error out a little bit more. But I don't care. So let's look at this in the side view. We have our 2 points. You could see the projection on the back, and you could see the couple points here that have been pushed ahead a bit. So let's see if this feels right. I'm going to go ahead and do a solve now. I think I disabled the camera. Yes, I did. So I'm going to go back, object. I'm also going to make sure that this object does not resolve my focal length. If I solve now, you can see the camera is now screwed up. So I'm going to undo it. Change your focal length to known. And yes, just hit yes, copy the field of view history. Yeah, it's fine. And now the focal length will stay the same. So if I hit Shift G, now this came out looking, this kind of looks like one of the Halloween costumes where people dress up and they look like they're holding another like smaller person. Kind of looks like that. Okay. So my immediate instinct for stuff like this is to see if any solve hints work, like fix this at all. Nope. I like this one. This one looks nice. Okay, so this solve hint, what this is if you, for a camera or an object, when you're in automatic solving, which basically means you're solving from scratch, from nothing, you also have these hints of the initial direction that your camera is making. But how does it know what frames that you're referencing? You got to pick 2 frames. And these 2 frames, you can think of it like your left and right eye. So the beginning and end, if I drag one somewhere out here, and then drag the second frame somewhere close by, hopefully between these 2 frames, there is a bit of parallax in your object, a bit of rotation to it. Because SYNTHEYES and all other software is going to build your solve, your initial solve, starting with 2 frames. And then it's going to build out the rest of your solve in between those frames, each doubling up each time. So your 2 starting frames, so I picked this and this. The parallax, like your body is not rotating much. You're not doing a crazy movement. There isn't a whole lot of data to be pulled from you. I went through these hints and did a little guess. So I just cycled down until I found one I was happy with. And then hey, the body rotation looks like it's somewhat normal now. Because let's say for the camera. What? Oh no! Oh no! So I jump back into the camera. The error radars are going crazy. The reason being is now the distortion is off. When I said to change your focal length to known so that the focal length doesn't change, I left calculate distortion on. So it recalculated the distortion only using the points on his back. So that is a very little amount of data to go off of. So that was dumb. So I'm going to undo until my distortion here and these points come back. There we go. And now the object is doing nothing. Okay, so I'm going to turn off calculate distortion. And focal length is unknown. And let's just set a couple initial frames. Let's hide the mesh for a second. So between here, your body does... Okay, so from this frame to this frame, your body has a little bit of a tilt. So I'm going to pick this frame. Wait, this frame. Let's go with something like that. I don't know. Between these two frames, hopefully there's a little bit of parallax. And from the object's perspective, the camera might be pushing to the right or pushing to the left. It's kind of hard to explain with an object. I was going to explain it with a camera, but here I'm just going to cycle down. Let's try left. Also, I hid my meshes. And hey, it was left. All right, cool. That was a good guess. Okay, so the object is kind of working. You can see the object diamond over here has actually gone crazy. This needs to be fixed. I should have addressed this at the start, actually. Okay, so this object, you could see how weird the object's path is when the actual object path should be over here by your body. That is because when I made this earthling, I just kind of made him kind of where, I just kind of made him where you were standing on the road, and that diamond was in the center. So now that I've dropped points onto the mesh and constrained it, these points, your 3D points, were kind of forced to stay at this position within the object space. So I'm going to just be real sloppy here, and I'm going to use whole, translate, and take this diamond and drag it over to you. So now that I'm dragging it over to you, you can see that the path has actually straightened itself out. Looks a lot cleaner now. So I'm going to make sure that this pivot is somewhere on your back. I'm going to make sure that this diamond is centered where your CG is going to be. So now that it is there, centered out, here's why I moved this actually. Let me show you why this diamond needs to be at the center of your scene. If I move it off back to where it was, so now it's out here. If I go to the object's filtering controls and I smooth the rotations, apply, look at what it did to the object now. That's pretty bad because the rotation was based around this point. It's based around this. So when I smoothed it, we ended up with this nasty mess. But now, when I use whole, translate, move that diamond, line it up to your back, bring it center. Now that the rotation, I'm going to turn whole off. Now that the rotation is on your back here, I could do a smooth if I wanted. Also, by the way, I don't usually smooth like this. This is dangerous and sloppy. But now when I apply smooth, so our rotations are a lot smoother now. It's hard to tell, but we don't have that crazy, weird ugliness. Oh, I hope that was good info to know. I hope that wasn't too confusing. I think I talk about this a bit in my object track tutorial on the Track VFX channel. Also, the benefit of this diamond being oriented correctly. So I'm going to go back into whole, and it's kind of hard to see here, but I'm going to kind of straighten this out so it's parallel to your back, to the curvature of your back here. That's really small. So I'm actually just gonna get rid of our guy here because it served our purpose already. If you want, you can keep the geo, but if I were you, I would model it out in Maya. All right, so this 6-foot man, I could delete him. If you don't want to delete him, just come up and hit hide. And here's the benefit of this object being centered now. Oh no, that's cool. So now I can come here. Let's say we want a plane. If I make this plane anywhere in the world, doesn't matter where, I can go to translate, and here's the translation data. I can zero it all out. I right-clicked to zero all this out, and you can see it has centered itself to your body. And I can go to rotation. I'm going to zero all this out, and let's see which axis. This one, I can go 90 degrees. And now you can see you can start placing objects easily. You can zero them out and get them perfectly symmetrical or whatever, just clean. This plane, I'm going to get rid of this. Let's see what the rotations of this body is doing. I think I left that rotation smooth on here. So I'm going to go create a cylinder. Click, drag. I'm going to make it long. Now translate, I'm going to zero it out. Rotation, zero it all out. And I'm going to put in... I'm going to rotate it on the... I assume that's the x-axis. 90. Why is this object diamond so massive? So I'm going to go edit, scene settings, object size, drag that down. It only is going to affect your diamond. Okay, and I'm going to hide the trackers, turn off the radars. Oops. Let's make this a very bright, obnoxious color. Ha! You have a tube out your back. That's good comedy. Okay, so let's distance this. We're going to clean up this object a bit now. So the object has a little bit of Z-depth jitter. It's actually very slight because we did put a decent amount of trackers on your back. But we should smooth the depth a little bit. And also, we got to make sure that this is actually scaled correctly. So I'm going to just check over here. So here you're kind of lined up with these points. Looks like your back could come ahead a little bit. So if I go to Object, come over to Hole, turn on Scale. Now, if I drag this here, you can see that I'm scaling the object back and forward in space, but it is not being affected in the camera view. Oh, and also the cylinder isn't following. So I'm going to right-click, 3D, Hole Effects Meshes. And now I can drag this in. Our cylinder will get bigger in space, but it is looking great in the camera. So I'm going to... Which points were these? Oh, those ones. Oops. I'm going to drag it ahead. I'm going to go Hole. Oops. Object 1. Hole. Scale it ahead. Sometimes you might have a good scale on one frame, and then on the other frame you find out that the scale is weirdly off. In this case, your camera has such a nice free move that, yeah, see, it looks like you're within a decent space. It actually looks a little bit like you could be back a bit right here. I'm going to try something a little funny here. I'm going to go and take this object, bring you ahead a little bit here. Okay, so now that I've brought in this object in, I'm going to go F7. F7 opens up your graph editor. So if I look in here, I opened up Camera and Objects, come down to Object, look at Solved Path. Open it up, and I'm actually just going to look at only the X, Y, Z. And I'm going to turn off the background color down here because it's just too bright. So I'm going to double click the hands, which will frame the lines. The other two aren't framing. That's weird. Oh well. So the Z line. If I look over here, we can see a little spike on the Z. That's because on the Z axis, I tug the cylinder back to where I think you should be. So this is going to get a little confusing. So the depth I really like at the beginning of the shot. So the Z line here is pretty good. but somewhere through here, your path gradually starts to drift a little bit. And I fixed it on one frame. I'm going to blast out a bunch of animation before, and this stuff down here, if I go over to this frame, you can see that big spike here. Now that I've blasted out that stuff, I'm going to quickly move this up a little bit. Okay. And now this is going to kind of be the new depth for this area. Technically, the depth might be slightly wrong through most of this, and you can adjust the Z depth line or whatever animation, whatever curve represents your depth from camera. You can alter it any way you want here. So I'm just going to add in a bunch of keyframes. So now I've messed with the Z. Technically, our object is slightly wrong now. Somewhere here, it is slightly wrong. Yeah, here we go. The points are all sliding off the markers now. So to fix that, I'm going to come over to the solver for the object. So really what we did was we tweaked the depth of the object to the camera. And now I want to tell SYNTHEYES to keep this depth, but only solve the object so it lines it back up like left and right from the camera. So I'm going to switch over to refine mode, turn constrain on, and axes locks. And in here, we're just going to look at distance. You don't really do position or rotation for an object. You really just use distance. So I'm going to turn this on. This is the weighting. This is how strong. Okay, first off, hold on. Okay, this stuff is always tough to explain. This path here, if we want to utilize this path that we've now altered, we have to load it into all this stuff for the locks to know what they're locking to. So that's what these get buttons are for. So we can get this path loaded in here. So we've loaded in this distance here. This is the measurement of the object to the camera on every frame. And now we can lock distance. So now when we hit solve, it's going to try and keep the object at this distance every frame. Insert cartoon timpani. What? Oh, wait, I think I know what you're talking about. I think. So now the lock is on. We're going to lock to this number. This is the strength of how hard we want to lock to this path that we've altered. So I'm going to turn this. 60 is usually pretty good. I sometimes go 90, but if I want to keep 100% what I've done, I can crank, the highest you can go is 120. So now, I'm going to scrub ahead, look at our worst frame. You can see where it's off here. We can watch the object here. When I hit solve, we should see this object just snap a line into place, but it won't push forward and back. Okay, so it rotated a little bit. Oh, so here's something I was actually a little concerned about. I think at the start of this, I didn't solve with constrain on. I got a pretty decent solve with the depth that I had off of your back as it was. I dropped those points into your back. They did a loose solve because I don't think I had constrain on, but now that I have constrain on, these points are doing a hard lock to those drop positions that I had. I'm sorry, this is going to be complicated. So to avoid, so now when I resolve with this distance, the distance is fine, but the rotation changes. And we don't really want that to change because we're happy with what we have. So you can see these yellow points. These are what I dropped into a mesh before. And the green points is where SYNTHEYES solved it. They solved and kept them roughly close to the points, which is awesome. But if I hit solve, you see it snaps them perfectly, and that changes our solve. So I'm going to select all the trackers, go to tracker, turn seed off, unconstrain them. So I'm going to force them to lock to their current positions. I'm going to hit this plus minus once. So now these trackers have position data for where they are currently sitting. If you're wondering what this plus and minus is, it lets you push these points forward and back in space. Your filter control light is still on. Is it? Oh, crap. Well, I'll turn that on in a second. But that distance filter, that shouldn't have affected this solve this big. But you definitely, yeah, you want to turn that off. Sorry, let me just go back here. All right, so these points, I'm just going to turn on lock point. And now, let's go back to solver and filtering control, as Marty pointed out. Oh, I had the rotation smoothing on. That's cool. I'm going to reset that. Don't leave this on. Whenever you do a smooth, if you do any kind of smooth, reset your filter all the time. Because if you leave any of these on, every time you hit solve, it's going to apply these smooths to your solves, to your camera or your objects. That's not a good thing because you're only supposed to smooth when you are prepared to go and start refining and resolving for the things that you've damaged. Smoothing will always damage something somewhere. So I'm going to reset that. And now that these points are locked into their position, like I had, constraint is on, we're in refine, axis lock, our distance is on. I've weighted it up to 120. And 120, again, you can play around with this number. Sometimes it's too harsh, it's too strong. You can try halfway, like 80 or something. 60, sorry. So I'm going to hit solve, and I'm going to watch this bad frame again. And we should see all the points snap, and we shouldn't see much difference. Hey, it worked perfectly. It rotated a little bit, but honestly, that's fine. It didn't move a whole lot. So watching it now... I need to get a good zoom on this. That looks pretty awesome. It has a little bit of jitter, just due to me turning off that filtering rotation. So let's apply it manually. Since I paid close attention and put this object pivot to where the direct center of your object is going to be, I am now comfortable applying a bit of smoothing rotation. I could play around with strength. I'm just going to leave it at a strength of 1. There, so I saw how much the rotation changed when I applied that smooth. It didn't move too drastically. I'm going to reset this. So now we have a pretty smooth object going. Okay, so now we have a really good looking object that is moving at the correct depth from the beginning to the end. It might be slightly off in the middle, but again, you just have to put points on the ground, make sure you have good reference of where he is in space. And then if it's off, move it back, clean up some of the curves, and then just turn on your distance, load in your new path that you've altered, and resolve. So with this, is there any big questions? Because this got a lot more confusing than I expected. I should have had constraint on from the beginning. I had to fix these point locks because I didn't turn that on. So that was kind of my bad. So back to F. Yes, if anybody has any questions, please shoot them at me now because we're kind of done this stage. If anybody's still interested, this will only take like probably 5 minutes. I can make a GeoH object off of this one and get us a separate track for one of these markers just to show how you can get a point in space that you can then use for a deforming mesh. I don't think I'll do an actual deforming mesh here as an example because how long have I been going for? We're getting close to 2 hours. And I want to do my own thing. Oh yeah, I was looking at the perspective view. If your trackers are humongous, come over to Edit, Scene Settings, Tracker Size. I'm going to turn this down to like 1. I'm going to turn that up a bit. Once again, hold control and you can scrub things more finely. There we go. View, normal speed. Okay, eye-opening moves you made to get it done. Gives me stuff to practice with. Nice. Yeah, I'm sorry I kind of made it very complicated. And Marty, good job, man. Thank you, sir. All right. So if there aren't any other big questions, I'm going to really fast do a GOH object on here. All right. Let's do this real quick. So a GOH, what is GOH? So you have cameras, you have objects, but you also have geometric hierarchy objects. And what that is if geometric hierarchy is basically rigging in SYNTHEYES. It lets you do deforming jaws. You can do someone's arm rotating. You can open a book and have the book perfectly hinge. You could do you could do a lot of really cool stuff with GOH. So I'm going to go over to the GOH room, and here, this is something I'd love to make a tutorial on in the future, but I just don't feel that I'm good enough at this yet to comfortably make a tutorial. Matthew Merkovich, I think I pronounced that correctly. He has awesome tutorials on YouTube. Okay, so now let's go ahead and what was I doing? Oh yeah. So I'm going to go into orbit, rotate around the scene, take a look. So I want an object down here that's only going to have one point driving it. So I'm going to come over to GOH toolbar and GOH create. This stuff is rigging controls, basically. So I'm going to go GOH, come over here, shift, click, and drag. And when I held shift click, you want to make sure that here you have your outliner in SYNTHEYES. So you have your camera and your object. You want to make sure that before you use GOH, you are branching off of the object you want to start with. Because like I said, this is rigging. These are bones, really. So I have object selected. Depending on what planar angle to the object I shift click on, it will drag the joint on that axis. And I think I'm going to run this straight down the center of the back. So I'm going to hold shift, click drag, bring it down. Let's go L, look through camera. L is lock right here, and it snaps you to your camera. So here, let me split my view. I'm going to go layout, camera and perspective. And I'm going to make myself 2 perspectives. So now that I have this, I'm going to orbit around in one view. And I'm imagining your lower back is right around here. So I'm going to move this object. Oh, well, that's snapped. Cool. Actually, I'm kind of happy with that. Now I should move it a little bit more. There's a couple ways to move this. I can move the pivot, or I can move the actual object itself using these. These are blue, meaning that all this is locked. If I want a tracker to move this joint up and down, I would unlock the necessary axes that I want this bone to move on. So let's move on the X. Let's line it up to this marker right here. So I'm going to move it on X, and then on Y, bring it up. Nice. And I'm also going to rotate this down a little bit. I just want it to kind of be level to the world. That's just my own personal preference at the time, or at this time. Okay, so we have that point. Oh, by the way, deforming meshes, there's actually easier setups in this. This is just how I would do it in SYNTHEYES. Usually I deform things completely by hand in Maya. Because half the time I don't find trackers worth the effort and setup, at least at my current skill level. So now that I have this placed on frame 143, just going to remember that, I got to get a tracker going. So I'm going to make a tracker, run it through, and now other direction. Awesome. What was it, 143 I was at? 143? Looks like it. Cool. All right. So now I want to put the tracker under this object. So I'm going to go back to GOH. And here you could see our tracker. I'm going to click it and drag it under Object 2. Object 2, so like the name implies, geometric hierarchy track. We have our object and then our second object underneath the first object. It's going to follow this object, but we're only going to let this track like up and down and stuff, left and right on the back. So hierarchy. So this tracker now, I want to I want to tell it to lock to the center of this. And I can do that, I believe, by dragging this plus minus. Whoops. Oh no, what did I do? I moved a frame, 143. There we go. Okay, just to make this easy. Whoops. I'm going to make a quick sphere at the depth of that diamond. And now I'm going to take this tracker and I'm going to project it. Track, drop on a mesh. There we go. So now we have a seed point in the center of this object diamond. So let's go back to GOH and let's get our normal 3D view, lock. Okay, so it has a seed point and this object node zone. I'm going to click on the object. So if there's any direction I want this joint to move, it's up, down, left, right. So I'm going to unlock X and Y. You also want to turn off key. Key is, let's ignore that for now. This is a big explanation. You can do image-based tracking with this geometry. So the mesh itself can track, and that's what key is. This is being driven by a tracker, so I turn key off. So these are unlocked. Now, when I play through, it is actually, you could see these values animating. This point is now actually sticking. It's tracking to your back, but only up and down. It's not coming out forward and backward. Eye-opening moves. Wait, if anyone wants to mess with my shot, you can share my link in this video description. Oh yeah, I should. That'd be awesome. Yeah, this is great footage to use. I'm gonna go track direction the other way. Play. Oh, but my locks were on. So I'm gonna head back over here. Go ahead, and I'm gonna turn these locks off. And now just hit play. What's this extra key here? Oh, the image space came on for one frame. That's weird. I'm gonna turn it off. There we go. We've snapped it back. And done. Let's put a plane there. I'm gonna put a plane here, and now I'm going to zero it all out. Rotation, zero it all out. Give it a rotation on 90. There we go. That's fun. Oh, I'm gonna do one more cool thing. Okay, this is fun. Sorry, one moment. Gonna make one more. Okay, now that we have this one more point, if we want this object to rotate to this, I'm going to go to GOH, and my other tracker is already under there as well. I'm going to drop it onto mesh. And for our object, I've unlocked it so that this thing can move up, down, left, and right. But to rotate, let's see, if I pan... What? Do I have to be on the first frame? Oh, weird. I've never seen this not work. Oh, it's because I locked it. I'm going to unlock the object. And now if I tilt, you can see I don't want it to tilt this way. Pan. Roll. I want it to rotate around the roll. So I'm just going to unlock roll. I'm not even tracking in the right direction. Oops. Sorry, I had to flip this tracking direction to actually go the right way. So here now, that other point up top, and now that I've unlocked roll, it's forcing this to, want to rotate on Z, and it's also moving the object on X and Y. Which I might have missed it. It just said, welcome to the chat room. That's annoying. All right. So here's what we got. Okay, so at this point, I'm really done. So yeah, if anybody has any questions, this is it. This is all you got. I'm going to put a big plane right down the center. And then I'm done with you fools. Whoa, I put that plane under the object. Aw. Get that out of there. God, I can't select it there. Come on. Okay, cool. I'm just gonna let that play now. Tomorrow, Brian. Awesome. Nice. All right. So it looks like I am done. Thank you for letting me use this footage, Brian. It was a fun shot to work on. It was nice working on something that I didn't shoot. All right. I am going to hang this up. Get on. Oh, by the way, one more quick thing. Turn on OpenGL camera view, because it puts aliasing on the wireframe. So if there's any, it reduces the problem of you looking at alias pixels that are popping around and thinking that it's your track. It literally has made me and other people think that their track is bad. Thanks a million for taking the time. Learned a lot. Awesome. It was good to hear. All right, yeah. Honestly, if you have any other footage you ever wanted me to check out, if you would be so kind as to let me stream it, that was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun playing around with this. All right, thanks so much, and I am jumping out now. See ya. Oh, if I could find my button. Hey, there we go. Thanks for watching. Flashy logo time. Goodbye.